It's Friday, which means we are back with another episode of Tourney Watch. Only 16 teams remain, and by the end of this weekend, we will have our Final Four set. I'm Rachel Berry, and welcome inside Studio B. Here to break down the action and preview what's ahead are Jack Kaiser and Jeremy Matheny.
A lot of the teams we expected to be at the Sweet 16 in this point, but there is that one Cinderella team, Jack.
Yeah, Missouri State, the one Cinderella in the Sweet 16 this year, but outside of that, largely who we expected to see in the second weekend.
Let's take a look at the bracket, starting with the Greensboro region. Baylor, the #1 overall seed. They play South Carolina. This region kicks off tomorrow. Jack, you like that opening matchup with Baylor and South Carolina.
Yeah, Dawn Staley in South Carolina won the national title just 2 years ago. The Gamecocks are very balanced, but they'll have their hands full against a Baylor team that's the #1 overall seed and hasn't lost since December. Iowa State and NC State should be fun as well.
In Portland, Mississippi State, the #1 seed in this region. They take on Arizona State. This region kicks off today. Oregon and South Dakota State at the bottom of the bracket.
Sabrina Ionescu alone for Oregon poses a major challenge to any team, but South Dakota State's rolling right now. Winners of 18 straight, with Macy Miller averaging 18 points per game and shooting 45% from three. Miller versus Ionescu, two big-time players in that game. Then you have a Mississippi State team that's won 9 of its last 10 by double digits, going against an Arizona State team fresh off an upset.
To Chicago, Notre Dame, the #1 overall seed in this region. The Irish, the defending national champions. Stanford and Missouri State at the bottom of this bracket as well. This region kicks off tomorrow.
Notre Dame's the cream of the crop, but Texas A&M has Kennedy Carter, who's just a sophomore. She's an excellent scorer at over 23 points per game. Then, of course, Missouri State, one of the big stories of the tournament, going against a very strong Stanford team.
Our final region and the second region playing today is in Albany. UConn and Louisville, the top 2 seeds, seem to be on a collision course, but the Cardinals could be upset by the Beavers in Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State's barely skated by the last 2 rounds, but they have the capability to upset Louisville. Then the daunting task for UCLA against UConn, who's playing in its 26th consecutive Sweet 16. ESPN host and reporter Maria Taylor now joins us. Maria, really appreciate the time. We're through the first weekend, 16 remain, but which team was most impressive to you through the first 2 rounds?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Sorry for the music, you know what I mean? I'm still dancing because we're in the middle of the NCAA tournament. But, you know, a lot of teams definitely impressed me. I loved the way that Notre Dame played every single game that they had, because they never lost their identity. So we know that they averaged 20 assists per game, and they played their offense flawlessly. I loved Arike and her performance, 23 points in the second round. I loved the way that they were just kind of playing together, and you just saw a little bit of everything. From when Jess Shepard needed to show up, she did. When Jackie Young needed to be an X factor, she was. I also was really impressed by Missouri State, obviously, because they are our one double-digit seed to advance, and they showed no fear, had to go on the road basically at Iowa State and get that win, and I was so impressed by them throughout the game against the Cyclones.
Notre Dame meets Texas A&M in the Sweet 16. Notre Dame seems to be playing as well as any team in the country right now, as you talked about, but how big of a challenge do you think Texas A&M poses to the Irish?
Texas A&M is a team who, if you haven't watched them play, then you're missing out, because they have a player named Kennedy Carter who is impressive. I mean, every time the NCAA tournament comes around, she's the one who comes up with the big steal, remember, to get the win against Marquette. It was a season ago that she had the buzzer-beating 3 that got a victory for Texas A&M at home in College Station. And she just scores out of her mind. But what's more impressive about Texas A&M right now is the fact that, remember, Kennedy Carter wasn't able to play at all during the SEC tournament, so she had more players stepping up around her, and now those players have this incredible confidence. They're even more balanced than before, so we get to watch Arike and Kennedy, 2 stars. It might be a little bit of a shootout in the Sweet 16.
You experienced the tournament as a player at Georgia. Is it that balance? Is it that star power? What separates teams that advance in this tournament?
The difference is the team that's peaking at the right time. Listen, you can have all the talent in the world and not make it through the NCAA tournament, because you have to be bonded. Everyone has to know exactly what their role is, and there shouldn't be any questions about that, because you're going to be having to turn over scouting reports on a dime. You're going to be sleeping in different rooms that you're not used to being in, and being in Portland instead of, Starkville, Mississippi for Mississippi State. So there can't be any questions surrounding the strategy or the system that's already in place. You have to be trusting in your system and very confident. And you have to be peaking right now. Like, it doesn't matter what happened the first 5 games of the season. It doesn't matter if you had the best start in program history. It's all about how you are playing in March, and you have to have the right people playing well during that time.
We'll leave you with this. We've seen the preparation process of the players and coaches, but what's your day-to-day process like hosting the studio coverage for ESPN?
If you were in the studio with us, you would wonder, why are we killing so many trees? We are constantly getting paper, whether it's box scores or recaps. We have a stack of note cards. We have great researchers, and Marissa Dowling is heading up our research, and they're constantly giving us, this is the first time that an 11 seed has advanced since XYZ. This is the lowest field goal percentage maybe UConn or someone has had in a quarter since XYZ. And Kennedy Carter's the highest scoring sophomore or whatever in the tournament. So we're constantly getting these awesome notes. And I have a big, huge binder. I feel like I'm back in middle school.
Maria Taylor, ESPN studio host for the women's basketball tournament. Maria, really appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
The tournament has been a memorable one so far. Let's take a look back at some of the best moments throughout the first 2 rounds. Four games and 8 teams are in action today, but Thursday was Media Day in Albany and Portland.
Today, the chip on kids' shoulders lasts until their next text. So we got a chip on our shoulder. The chip in their phone. They got a chip on. That other stuff that doesn't exist anymore.
2 things. I really am a strong believer that culture wins and that relationships are everything. And I think I really have confidence in the relationships that we've built with each individual player, and I knew what they brought not only from a skill potential standpoint, but from a heart level standpoint.
There's a handful that you can truly say, hey, this is what they want to do. Asia wants to be a professional basketball player. On top of that, she was our ACC Scholar Athlete of the Year. So not only does she want to be a professional basketball player, but she's taking care of business in the classroom as well.
I like it better when everybody hated each other. All the hate's gone. It's no fun.
4 games in action today, Jack. 2 regions total, but what are you most excited for?
The Portland and Albany regions in action today specifically. There's a lot of fun matchups starting with UCLA and UConn up north. The Bruins may be a 6 seed, but they were no underdog up to this point. 4 straight Sweet 16s for Corey Close's squad. The big 3 of Michaela Onyenware, Kennedy Burke, and Japrice Dean account for 65% of their points. If those 3 are hitting, they have a shot to take down the Huskies, who they met in the Sweet 16 2 years ago, but lost by 15 in that game. Meanwhile, UConn's success, it's unmatched. Even though they're a 2 seed this year, you have to consider them a favorite to reach the Final Four and potentially win their 12th national title under Gino Auriemma. They're on a mission after 2 straight losses in the Final Four, and with Nafisa Collier, Katie Lou Samuelson leading the way, it's going to be difficult for any team to top the Huskies. They haven't faced the competition they saw in the regular season yet, which inflates their numbers through the first 2 games of the tournament, but still impressive nonetheless. For UCLA, I'm impressed with the 87 points per game mark for the Bruins, having to play on the road and upsetting Maryland. Could see a lot of points scored tonight in Albany.
To Portland for game 1 from that region, Arizona State and Mississippi State. The Bulldogs, 32-2 on the season, victories over Southern and Clemson in their opening rounds. They are winners of 10 straight as well. This team led by Tiara McCowan and Anriel Howard. The Bulldogs, an offensive juggernaut, putting up 94 points per game through the first 2 rounds, playing in Starkville. For Arizona State, the Sun Devils, 22-10 on the year, their first Sweet 16 appearance since the 2014-2015 season. They defeated UCF 60-45 in the first round, and Miami 57-55 in round number 2 on this shot that went in and then back out. The Sun Devils, a very defensive-minded team compared to Mississippi State, who plays a lot of good offense. We'll see if that 3-point field goal percentage, though, for Arizona State can stay that high in the Sweet 16 game.
Oregon State and Louisville is a very intriguing matchup as well. The Cardinals definitely led by Asia Durr, an All-American caliber player, but Dana Evans and Sam Fearing add good balance to this team. Last year's experience of making a run to the Final Four and playing as a favorite all season this year has helped them and will help them in this game. But this perhaps is the best opportunity for a 1 seed to go down. The Beavers just skated by in the first 2 games, but they may be one of the smartest defensive teams in the country under Scott Ruitt. They alternate game to game and will have a plan on how to slow down Asia Durr in this Louisville offense. On offense for the Beavers, Destiny Slocum and Michaela Pivick average over 15 points per game. They're good shooters and they drive this team. The stats for the Beavers, they haven't been outstanding through the first 2 games of the tournament, specifically on defense, but that area was really solid all season. Louisville, on the other hand, won games with its defense in the first 2 rounds. This is a very fun matchup in Albany.
South Dakota State and Oregon, the nightcap in Portland. Sabrina Ionescu, the triple-double machine, leads the 3rd best offense in the country in Oregon. The Ducks finished 31-4 on the year, including an 87-79 win over the Jackrabbits back on December 12th. They got victories over Portland State and Indiana in the opening 2 rounds in Eugene. Sabrina Ionescu leading Oregon all the way. For South Dakota State, Jackrabbits 28-6 on the year. They are top 12 team in the country in scoring at 80 points per game. They're led by Macy Miller, the star-studded senior. South Dakota State upset Syracuse in the Carrier Dome to get to the Sweet 16. Both of these teams very good on the offensive end. It's going to be about who can score more points in this game. If you want offense, this is the game to watch. South Dakota State in their tournament under that 80 points per game, but still right in that area. Oregon, 84.5 points per game. Both these teams can get it done on the offensive end.
Our 4 players to watch for today's games. These are their numbers through the first weekend of the tournament. Nothing new for these women. They've been leaders of their teams all year. Macy Miller averaging a double-double, a great all-around presence. And oh yeah, if you want an all-around player, just look at Michaela Pivick. 20 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists on average through the first weekend, and she's getting to the line as well. Free throws are always critical this time of year. For UConn, Kristen Williams is scorching hot from deep. Her 3-point presence for the Huskies makes them that much better. And finally is a first-team All-American, Tiara McCowan, arguably the best center in the country because she completely controls the paint on offense and defense.
Peterson from Associated Press. T, Coach said that you kind of flipped a switch following the Valentine's Day loss. Do you feel like that was a turning point for you and you became kind of more focused at that point?
I know. I guess you could say that. I wasn't too dialed in. For some reason, that game, it just wasn't going for me. So, I mean, from that point forward, I just had to be more focused and just know and tell myself like I had to be ready going into each and every game from that point on. He said that? I didn't know he said that. Just ain't loud.
Let's take a look at the Sweet 16 schedule. 4 games today on your left side, 4 games tomorrow on your right side. But Jack, what game are you watching today?
Today I'm watching Louisville and Oregon State. We talked to Adam Amin last week, and he said the Beavers may have the best chance to be outside of that top 2 seed lines, making a run to the Final Four. Should be a good matchup with Louisville. Then the next day I have my eyes set on Iowa and NC State. Megan Gustafson, always a difficult player to deal with.
Well, guys, is there a player you're going to continue to keep your eyes on?
Well, for South Dakota State, Macy Miller is the player to watch in that game against Oregon besides Sabrina Ionescu. If the Jackrabbits have a chance to upset Oregon, they're going to need a lot of production from Macy Miller.
I still have my eyes on Megan Gustafson. We just mentioned her moments ago. For the Hawkeyes, she had 30 points and 16 rebounds in their first-round victory. She's a matchup nightmare for any team.
And from all of us here at Studio B, as well as our Ball State Sports League production crew and the NCAA, thanks for watching Tourney Watch. You can follow all the Sweet 16 action with hashtag NCAAW. Enjoy the games.